Hey everyone and welcome. So you've built this awesome web app and you're thinking, man, I wish I could get this thing onto the Google Play Store. Well, you're in the right place because today we're going to break down exactly how to do that. Let's get right into it.
So let's start with a big question, the one that's probably on your mind right now. You've poured all this time and energy into a really slick Next.js web app. It's fast, it looks great, but can you actually get it on the Google Play Store? Right there next to all the native apps for millions of people to download? It kind of feels like they're two totally different worlds, right? Well, the answer, and you're gonna love this, is a huge yes. And honestly, it's probably a lot easier than you think. You do not need to go back to square one and rewrite your entire app. Nope, there's a really clever way to bridge that gap between your web world and the native app world.
So how does this all work? The secret sauce is something called a WebView wrapper. The best way to think about it is like this. Your web app is a beautiful piece of art. The native Android app you're about to build, that's just the picture frame. It's a real installable app, but its main job is just to hold and display your web app perfectly. That's it.
Okay, so before we even think about building that frame, we've got to make sure our artwork, our web app, is ready to be shown off. This prep phase is absolutely key, because if the app inside the frame doesn't feel good on a phone, then the whole thing falls apart.
There are really three big things to focus on here. First, responsiveness. This is non-negotiable. Your app has to look amazing and be easy to use on any phone screen. Second, performance. Mobile users are impatient, right? So we need it to load fast. And third, think about adding some offline support with a service worker. It just makes the app feel so much more reliable, even if the user's connection is a little flaky.
All right, our web app is prepped and ready to go. Now it's time to actually build the frame. This is where we're going to fire up Android Studio and create that little native wrapper. And don't worry, this is not nearly as complicated as it sounds. We're going to break it down into just a few simple steps. You see, the native part is actually pretty minimal. You're basically just doing four things. You start a new project, you drag a web view, which is pretty much just a tiny web browser, onto the screen, you tell it what your website's URL is, and then, super important, you give it permission to use the internet. That's really the heart of it right there.
And hey, if you remember literally just one thing from the coding part, make it this. This single line of code, mywebview.loadURL, is the magic. It's the one command that tells your empty Android picture frame, hey, go to this website and show it to the user. Everything else is built around this one simple instruction.
Now listen up, because this is a step you absolutely cannot skip. If you forget to add this little permission line in your app's manifest file, the web view is basically a browser with no Wi-Fi. It's totally blocked from the internet. Adding this one line is what opens the gate and lets your wrapper actually connect to your server to load your web app.
Okay, you've built a wrapper, you've tested it, and it works. Awesome. Now for what I like to call the final boss, the publishing gauntlet. This is where we navigate all the steps to get your app packaged up and officially on the Google Play Store for the whole world to download. So first things first, you need to know about the two kinds of packages you'll be making. A test build is just for you. It's for installing on your own phone to make sure everything works. But the signed app bundle, that's the real deal. That's the official, secure, and optimized package that Google requires for the Play Store.
And I really can't stress this next part enough. When you create that signed bundle, you get a signing key. Think of this as your app's digital passport. It proves you're the real developer. If you lose this key, and I mean if you lose the file or the password, you will not be able to publish any updates to your app, ever. So please back it up and keep it somewhere safe. Once you're inside the Google Play console, it's time to set up your digital storefront. This is your big chance to make a great first impression. You're going to need a great name, write some descriptions that sell your app, get a really nice looking icon, and take some high-quality screenshots. And of course, you'll need to handle the basics, like adding a privacy policy link and filling out a quick questionnaire about your app's content.
And then comes the final stretch. You upload your signed bundle, hit submit, and then you wait. Google's team has to review your app, and this can take anywhere from a couple of hours to a few days, so try to be patient. But once you get that approval email, congratulations! Your web app is officially live on the Google Play Store.
But hold on, we're not done yet. Getting your app on the store is amazing, but we can do better. Let's talk about a few pro tips to make your app feel less like a website in a box and more like a truly polished native experience.
To really blur those lines between web and native, you can add a native splash screen. That gets rid of that ugly white flash and makes your app feel like it's loading instantly. You can even tap into native device features, like asking for permission to use the camera or location. And for real user engagement, you can integrate native push notifications.
Now, this brings up a question I see all the time. Let's say your web app already uses Firebase for things like authentication or its database. Do you also need to register your new Android wrapper with Firebase before you build it? It's a common point of confusion.
And the simple answer is probably not. If your web app is handling all the Firebase stuff on its own, you don't need to do anything extra. You only need to register the Android app with Firebase if you want the native wrapper itself to do something, like receiving those push notifications we just talked about. So, is this WebView method the only game in town? Well, not exactly. You've probably heard of progressive web apps, or PWAs. The biggest difference really comes down to discoverability. A WebView app gets you in the Google Play Store, which is a massive advantage. A PWA is simpler. Users can install it right from the browser, but you miss out on that giant audience browsing the App Store. So let's just boil this whole thing down one last time. What did we do? Step 1. Prep your web app so it's awesome on mobile. Step 2. Build that super simple native wrapper in Android Studio. Step 3. Generate the secure signed app bundle. And Step 4. Submit it to the Play Store. That's it. 4 steps to get from a website to worldwide distribution. So, you see, the barrier between being a web developer and a mobile app developer is lower than it has ever been. The tools are right here and the path is clear. Your website can now potentially reach over 1 billion users on the Google Play Store. So the only real question left is, what are you going to build?